What do you really want? Not the surface level answer you give when someone casually asks about your goals, but the truth that sits beneath the noise, the truth that whispers to you when no one else is around. For most people, the real challenge is not desire, it's honesty. It's allowing themselves to admit what they want without filtering it through fear, doubt, or other people's expectations. The moment you strip away those filters, you begin to see the shape of your true ambition. Perhaps you want freedom, financial freedom, emotional freedom, time freedom. But freedom is not just a condition, it's a craving. It's the desire to make decisions without permission, to live without the weight of survival pressing on your shoulders. When you say you want freedom, what you're often saying is that you want your life back. You want to reclaim the hours, the energy, and the potential you've handed over to things that do not serve you. Maybe what you really want is significance, not applause, not attention, significance. The feeling that your life matters, that your existence makes a difference, that your contribution shifts something in the world. Significance is not about being seen, it's about being felt. It's about knowing that when you show up, something improves, someone grows, something changes for the better because you were present. You might want security, real security, not the illusion of safety that comes from playing small, but the grounded confidence that comes from building something stable, something that supports you instead of stressing you. Many people confuse comfort with security. Comfort says, stay where you are. Security says, build something strong enough to stand on. The moment you understand the difference, your desires begin to evolve. Some people want achievement. They want to accomplish something that validates their effort, their discipline, their fight. Achievement is not about ego, it is about confirmation. It confirms that the sacrifices meant something. It confirms that the late nights, early mornings, setbacks, and struggles were all part of a story leading somewhere meaningful. Achievement is the proof that your potential wasn't wasted. Maybe you want transformation, not a small improvement or an incremental upgrade, but a full-scale reinvention. This desire is more common than people admit. When you feel stuck, when you feel misaligned, when you feel like the life you're living doesn't fit who you've become, the longing for transformation grows louder. You want a change that allows you to breathe again, think again, dream again. Or perhaps what you want most is simplicity, a life free from unnecessary chaos, unnecessary commitments, unnecessary obligations. Simplicity doesn't mean doing less. It means doing more of what matters. It means clearing the clutter, physical, emotional, and mental, so that what remains is purposeful and fulfilling. Simplicity is not for the weak. It takes strength to let go of what no longer aligns with your future. Some people want connection, the kind of connection that is authentic, mutual, and meaningful. Connection is not about having people around you. It's about having the right people around you. It's about relationships that lift you, conversations that stretch you, and environments that value you. When connection is missing, even the biggest goals can feel empty. Others want impact. They want to leave a mark, to influence, to teach, to inspire. Impact is the desire to plant seeds that grow long after you're gone. It's the pull toward legacy, a legacy built not from fame, but from contribution. Impact is less about being remembered and more about making sure the world is better because you lived. You may want abundance, not just money, but abundance in opportunities, relationships, health, creativity, and peace. Abundance is a mindset before it becomes a reality. It's the belief that there is room for you, that there's more available, that you don't have to fight life to receive what is already possible. Wanting abundance is wanting permission to stop shrinking. You might want mastery, the desire to excel, to become exceptional, to operate with skill and confidence at a level that separates you from the crowd. Mastery is not about being better than others. It's about being better than your last version of yourself. It's a pursuit that requires discipline, consistency, and humility, but the reward is influence and certainty. You may want joy, the real kind, the joy that isn't dependent on circumstances or achievements, the joy that comes from knowing you're aligned with your purpose, living truthfully, and honoring your values. Joy is deeper than happiness. Happiness reacts, joy remains. When you seek true joy, you seek a life that feeds your spirit, not just your senses. Some people want peace. They want the noise in their minds to quiet down, the battles in their hearts to settle. Peace doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from becoming the kind of person who no longer fears them. Wanting peace means you're ready to rise above chaos instead of being controlled by it. Others want power, not over others, but power over their own decisions, their own direction, their own destiny. Personal power is the ability to choose without being driven by fear, doubt, or insecurity. It's the ability to say yes with purpose and no with confidence. When you desire power, what you truly desire is ownership of your life. And maybe deep down what you really want is permission. Permission to dream bigger. Permission to change your mind. Permission to walk away. Permission to start over. Permission to want more without feeling guilty. Permission to want differently without feeling wrong. Often the only person you're waiting for permission from is yourself. Understanding what you really want is not easy because it forces you to confront the truth about what you've settled for. But once you get honest, truly honest, you unlock a level of clarity that makes confusion impossible and makes the next step undeniable. Why do you want it? That question reaches deeper than desire, deeper than preference, deeper than ambition. It forces you to examine the engine behind every choice you make. Most people chase goals without ever understanding the reason they burn for them, but the reason is what gives your pursuit meaning. Without a clear why, dreams fade, discipline weakens, and resistance wins. When you know your why, you no longer have to push yourself. Your purpose pulls you. You want it because something inside you refuses to accept a life that feels smaller than who you truly are. Even if you've ignored that inner voice, even if you've numbed it with distraction or settled into routine, it never entirely goes away. It's the quiet reminder that there is more in you, more capacity, more potential, more greatness than what you've allowed yourself to express. That reminder is your why trying to get your attention. You want it because you're tired of the gap between the life you imagine and the life you're living. You're tired of watching your potential sit on the shelf while you settle for patterns that drain you. That frustration is not a sign of failure. It's evidence of desire. It's the signal that you're ready for something different, something better, something aligned with who you're becoming instead of who you've been. You want it because you've tasted what it's like to be proud of yourself, even if only in small moments, and you want more of that feeling. The sense of accomplishment, the satisfaction of progress, the confidence that comes from keeping a promise to yourself. These are powerful motivators. They remind you that you're capable of more than you've been giving yourself credit for. They remind you that growth is not just possible, it's necessary. You want it because you've seen what happens when you don't choose yourself. You've watched opportunities slip away. You've experienced the pain of regret. You've felt the weight of settling and the sting of wondering what if. That memory becomes a motivator. It pushes you to make decisions today that won't haunt you tomorrow. It pushes you to move forward so you never again feel the sting of missing out on your own potential. You want it because there are people depending on you, even if they've never said it. Your success creates stability for your family, your community, and your future generations. Your growth gives others permission to grow. Your courage opens doors for those who lack the strength to walk through them alone. Your why expands beyond you. It becomes a responsibility, a calling, a legacy. You want it because deep down, you know you were created for purpose, not survival. Survival is exhausting. It drains your energy, your creativity, your hope. Purpose, on the other hand, energizes you. It gives you direction. It gives you clarity. It reminds you that you're not just here to exist or pay bills or get by. You're here to make an impact, to express your gifts, to create something meaningful with your life. You want it because you're tired of feeling like life is happening to you instead of being shaped by you. You want to be the one making the decisions, setting the pace, choosing the direction. You want to feel in control, not of everything, but of the things that matter most. That desire is not selfish. It's a natural part of stepping into maturity and ownership. You want it because the version of you that has it feels more confident, more grounded, more fulfilled. When you imagine that future version of yourself, you can feel the emotional difference. That version of you is not weighed down by the same fears, insecurities, or limitations. That version of you stands taller, thinks clearer, and lives more intentionally. Wanting it is wanting to become that person. You want it because something in your past taught you that life could be better than what you grew up with or what you once accepted. Maybe you came from scarcity, chaos, or limitation. Maybe you learned early that if you didn't change something, your future would look exactly like your past. That experience created a hunger in you, a hunger for progress, for stability, for abundance, for peace. You want it because you've realized that comfort is not your friend. Comfort keeps you stuck. Comfort whispers that good enough is enough. But the desire stirring inside you knows that good enough is not aligned with your calling. It knows that comfort is the cage that traps people in mediocrity, and you want more than that. You want a life that excites you, challenges you, and stretches you. You want it because you crave the feeling of becoming stronger than your excuses. Every time you push past fear, you gain power. Every time you overcome resistance, you gain confidence. Every time you honor your commitment, you gain respect for yourself. That strength becomes addictive. You start wanting goals not just for the outcome, but for the person you become in the process. You want it because you're tired of waiting for the perfect time, knowing deep down that such a moment never arrives. You want to stop postponing your potential. You want to stop delaying your dreams. You want your life to finally reflect the fullness of your ambition. That urgency is not pressure, it's clarity. It's the realization that time is passing whether you grow or not. You want it because the cost of staying the same has become more painful than the cost of change. Transformation demands effort, risk, and discomfort. But stagnation demands your future. At some point, you realize that the price of remaining unchanged is too high to pay. That realization becomes a turning point, a moment when you decide that growth is no longer optional. You want it because something in you knows that your story is not finished yet. There are chapters you haven't written, victories you haven't claimed, and breakthroughs you haven't experienced. Your why is the reminder that there is more waiting for you, more available to you, more possible for you. And as long as that desire remains alive inside you, you know you cannot settle for anything less than the life you're truly capable of living. What are you willing to do to get it? This question confronts the part of you that loves the idea of change, but resists the work required to create it. Everyone wants the reward, but fewer people want the responsibility that comes with it. Wanting something is easy. Being willing to pay the price is where the separation happens. Desire sets the destination, but willingness determines whether you actually arrive. You must be willing to step into discomfort, because growth never happens in places that feel familiar. Discomfort is the training ground of transformation. It stretches your capacity and reveals strengths you didn't know you had. The moment you learn to embrace discomfort, you begin to unlock new levels of ability, confidence, and resilience. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid progress. If you embrace it, you accelerate your evolution. You have to be willing to let go of old patterns. You cannot bring yesterday's habits into tomorrow's goals and expect anything to change. The behaviors that protected you in the past may be the very things limiting you in the present. Letting go requires courage, because releasing old patterns often means releasing the identity that formed around them. But every breakthrough begins with a breakup. Breaking up with a version of yourself that can't go where you're trying to go. You must be willing to challenge your excuses. Excuses are comfortable lies that protect you from the inconvenience of responsibility. They sound reasonable, they feel familiar, and they give you temporary relief from discomfort. But excuses steal your future one rationalization at a time. You cannot hold on to excuses and results simultaneously. You must choose which one matters more. Freedom begins the moment you stop negotiating with excuses. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. That investment might be financial, emotional, mental, or physical. It might require learning new skills, hiring a mentor, joining a program, or dedicating time to study and practice. Investing in yourself is not a luxury. It's a prerequisite for growth. If you are not willing to invest in your own development, you limit the possibilities available to you. You must be willing to be misunderstood. Pursuing something meaningful often places you on a path that others don't understand. People may question your choices, doubt your abilities, or misinterpret your intentions. If you need universal approval, you will abandon your goals as soon as the resistance shows up. Being misunderstood is the price of being different, and being different is often the price of becoming exceptional. You have to be willing to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term fulfillment. This means choosing discipline over distraction, consistency over convenience, and structure over impulses. Sacrifice is not about losing something, it's about creating space for something greater. When you sacrifice, you're not giving up what matters. You're giving up what doesn't so that you can make room for what does. You must be willing to face your fears. Fear is not a sign that you should stop. It is a sign that something meaningful is ahead. Every major breakthrough in your life will require you to walk through fear instead of around it. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of not being enough, the only way to conquer fear is by acting despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision that your purpose matters more. You have to be willing to persist when progress feels slow. People quit not because the goal is impossible, but because the timeline feels inconvenient. Progress rarely happens on your schedule. It requires patience, endurance, and commitment. Consistency may not feel dramatic, but it is the force that compounds into transformation. If you're only willing to show up when it feels easy, you'll never reach the places that require endurance. You must be willing to take responsibility for your results. This means owning your choices, your actions, and your outcomes without blaming circumstances, people, or luck. Responsibility is empowering because it puts the control back in your hands. When you stop blaming and start owning, you gain the ability to change. Responsibility is not about guilt, it's about authority. It's the realization that your life is shaped by what you do, not what happens to you. You have to be willing to adapt. The journey to your goal will not be linear. Plans will shift, obstacles will appear, and unexpected situations will test your flexibility. Rigidity keeps you stuck. Adaptability moves you forward. When you learn to adjust your method without abandoning your mission, you become unstoppable. Adaptation is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of intelligence and resilience. You must be willing to confront your limitations. This is one of the hardest parts of growth because it forces you to face the truth about the skills you lack, the weaknesses you've ignored, and the areas where you need improvement. Confronting limitations is not about self-criticism. It's about self-awareness. You cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot rise above what you're unwilling to address. You have to be willing to maintain your standards even when no one is watching. It's easy to be disciplined in public, but it is the private moments that define whether you truly embody the principles you claim to believe in. Your standards are the silent agreements you make with yourself, and the strength of those standards determines the strength of your results. Private discipline creates public confidence. You must be willing to endure the moments when you don't feel motivated. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are inconsistent. What you seek requires commitment, not convenience. Commitment means showing up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're uninspired. It means acting based on decisions, not emotions. The people who achieve extraordinary outcomes are not the ones who feel motivated. They are the ones who stay consistent regardless of how they feel. You have to be willing to become a different version of yourself. The person you are today has brought you as far as you've come, but the person who achieves what you desire will think differently, speak differently, act differently, and make different choices. Transformation is not an event. It is a process of aligning your identity with your destiny. When you are willing to evolve, you make yourself capable of receiving everything your life has been waiting to offer you. Who do you need to become to make it reality? This question takes you beyond goals, beyond strategies, beyond effort. It forces you to step into identity because no matter how big your dream is, it will always be limited by the version of you trying to achieve it. The results you want can only exist at the level of the person you are becoming. When you shift your identity, your behavior changes. When your behavior changes, your results change. So the first step toward any breakthrough is becoming the person who naturally produces the outcomes you desire. You need to become someone who thinks differently. Every major upgrade in your life begins with an upgrade in your beliefs. You cannot think like a survivor and expect to live like a creator. You cannot think in scarcity and expect abundance. You cannot think in limitations and expect expansion. When your thinking expands, your possibilities expand. And when your possibilities expand, your actions begin to reflect a higher level of confidence and courage. You need to become someone who operates with intention instead of impulse. The life you want cannot be built on random decisions or emotional reactions. It requires clarity, structure, and direction. It requires waking up each day with a purpose instead of a pattern. When you become intentional, you stop wasting energy on distractions and start pouring it into progress. Intention transforms chaos into momentum. You need to become someone who honors commitments, especially the ones you make to yourself. The difference between confidence and insecurity is consistency. When you consistently keep promises to yourself, your self-respect rises. Your belief in your own discipline grows. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That internal shift changes the way you carry yourself and the way you pursue your goals. You need to become someone who values learning over comfort. Growth requires curiosity. It requires humility. It requires the willingness to admit that you don't know what you haven't yet mastered. The person capable of achieving your dream is also the person willing to become a student again. Learning is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of evolution. Every skill you develop becomes a tool for transformation. You need to become someone who refuses to be defined by past circumstances. Your history may have shaped you, but it does not have to limit you. The identity you carry from your past often holds you hostage to versions of yourself that no longer reflect your potential. To become who you're meant to be, you must release the identity built in survival seasons. You must allow yourself to step into an identity built for thriving. You need to become someone who takes bold action even when clarity isn't perfect. Waiting for certainty is a form of procrastination. The person you are becoming learns through action, not speculation. You move forward even when you're unsure. You take steps even when the path isn't fully visible. Movement creates clarity. And every step you take adds evidence that you are capable of more than you believed. You need to become someone who sets boundaries that protect your energy, your mindset, and your progress. The future you want cannot be built while you entertain people, situations, and habits that drain you. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They filter out what weakens you so you can give your energy to what strengthens you. Becoming this person means valuing your future more than others' expectations. You need to become someone who sees failure differently. Instead of viewing failure as a verdict, you begin to see it as feedback. Feedback that teaches, redirects, refines, and strengthens you. The person who succeeds is never the one who avoids failure, but the one who refuses to be defined by it. When you stop fearing failure, you unlock a level of boldness that transforms your efforts. You need to become someone who is emotionally disciplined. Emotional discipline is the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. It means you can face frustration without quitting, face fear without shrinking, face criticism without collapsing. Emotional discipline is what allows you to remain steady when everything around you feels chaotic. It is the anchor that keeps you aligned with your purpose. You need to become someone who elevates their environment. No one rises in an environment designed for stagnation. If you want to grow, you must surround yourself with people who challenge you, inspire you, and model excellence. You must place yourself in spaces where growth is normal and mediocrity feels uncomfortable. Elevating your environment elevates your expectations for yourself. You need to become someone who trusts their own voice. Too often, people silence their intuition because of fear, doubt, or outside opinions. But your intuition is the roadmap to your destiny. It knows when something aligns. It knows when something is off. The person capable of achieving your dream is the person who listens to that inner guidance, even when it contradicts what others expect of you. You need to become someone who is willing to outgrow old versions of yourself. Transformation requires shedding, not just habits, but identities, beliefs, and limitations. The version of you that stayed safe will not take bold risks. The version of you that feared judgment will not step into leadership. The version of you that doubted your worth will not claim abundance. Becoming who you need to be means releasing who you no longer are. You need to become someone who leads yourself with clarity, courage, and conviction. Leadership begins internally. It means guiding your own decisions, steering your own direction, and holding yourself accountable. When you lead yourself well, you become the kind of person who naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and support. You become magnetic because you embody alignment. You need to become someone who lives according to the standards of the future you desire, not the limitations of the past you've experienced. Every time you act in alignment with that future version of yourself, you bring it closer to reality. Identity creates destiny. And the moment you fully step into the identity of the person who can achieve your dream, that dream becomes not just possible, inevitable.